Welcome to a conversational pace comparison review. We have the Speedland GL, PDX, and the GL SVT. Finn, what happened to your shoes?
I just got back from one of those Ford F-250 Super Duty commercials. This shoe just won a JD Power and Associates Powertrain Warranty Award, and I forgot to clean it off after the fact.
Yeah, that looks intense. I did run in some mud in these, but I spent a good amount of time brushing all the dirt off because I don't like getting dirt on my desk here. But I'm glad that we had both of these shoes because they are very similar. There's a few differences, but I thought they were similar enough where you could run in one, I could run in the other, and we could talk about what we like, dislike, underfoot, as well as what some of the differences are with the upper, how we felt about those. Before we get going, I just want to say that these shoes were provided to us by Speedland, but we're under no financial obligation to say whether we like a product or not because we want to keep these reviews authentic and beneficial for you. No one will get to preview or watch this footage before it gets published to YouTube. The GL PDX is $250 and the GL SVT is $299. The Carbitex plate, which is an optional carbon fiber plate that you can put in the shoe, it is sold separately for, I believe, $35.
$35.
The weight of my PDX in a men's size, oh, I almost said 10. Mine's a 9.5. I went down a half size. Do you know what size yours are? Are yours 11.5 then?
I think they might be an 11.5 too.
Okay. I think I do remember now them saying that they recommended going the same size as the GS Tam, which we both went down.
Yep.
Half size for.
Yep.
Well, you actually went it. You've had a pair half size down and true to size.
And true to size.
Seemed like the half
I do
size.
recommend going half size down.
Okay. So same size as the GS Tam for reference. But anyways, US men's 9.5. My pair weighed 11.1 ounces or 316 grams without the plate. The plate adds 20 grams of weight. Just going off their tech sheet, the SVT weighs about 10 grams more than the PDX, which is just due to the additional stuff going on with the upper. Both shoes share the same midsole and outsole, and the stack height is 28 millimeters in the forefoot and 33 millimeters in the heel, 5 millimeter drop, and that's for both shoes. What else? Okay, so we'll go through some differences in the upper because that's where all the differences for this shoe are. The PDX has kind of like a ripstop mesh upper with some pretty soft TPU overlays along the toe bumper and midfoot. We have one BOA Li2 dial down right across the like lower section of the midfoot, which will feel very similar to anyone who's had a Speedland shoe. You know, it looks virtually identical placement and construction wise to like something on the GS Tam. I believe our lower BOA dials are the same placement. Where the shoe differs is as we get closer towards the top of the foot, I get a reverse Velcro strap. So ASMR is Velcro ASMR. Like, anyone want to hear that? Well, there you go. Speedlands with the straps. It goes upwards, which I actually found you get a little bit like different feel lockdown for. We do that instead of the upper BOA dial. My shoe, the PDX, has the classic knit tongue and ankle collar with their like almost suede type material backing. It's the same as all of the other Speedland material or Speedland shoes that I've worn. So that will feel very familiar. Finn, yours definitely is probably one of the biggest design changes that we've seen in recent like Speedland shoe generations.
Yeah, so you've got like this perform fit wrap that we've kind of come to know Speedland for with the BOA dial system. It's interesting. The upper kind of changes as you get closer to the forefoot. You've got this like tight mesh kind of woven upper piece here, but then as you get closer down towards the forefoot, this material almost feels like matrixy.
Yeah, that's
really
what I noticed. Apparently, according to their tech sheets, we have the same material
across
like the bottom part of the upper, where it's not an open mesh like the GS Tam, or the GM was like an open spacer kind of mesh. This one's a little bit tighter knit, much less stretch, but doesn't feel as starchy as like say like the full like Dyneema upper and like the Norda 001. Right before we started recording, you had like a little bit of a light bulb moment with the upper boa dial.
This is interesting. Excuse me.
Spoiler alert, Finn's a little sick right
I'm
now.
playing hurt today. You know, in the NHL, they'd call this an upper body injury. You play through it. Um, so I got the GS Tam here. As you can see, these two dials kind of sit on the same plane laterally across the upper of the shoe. I have the SVT here, and this second dial, I guess it depends on your foot shape. For me, it's set just below the ball of the ankle, but a little bit higher up off of this kind of lateral plane. It's just a different type of lockdown. I thought that it actually, like, one of the improvements of this particular model, I felt like was a better lockdown. I felt like
Okay.
I got a better lockdown than I did with the GS Tam, with this sort of like lateral
And the
dial
actual
system.
boa is now anchored to the strap that starts on the
Yes,
medial side of the shoe.
yes,
And then the boa dial goes all the way around
yes.
to the lateral side instead of just being attached to the lateral side of the shoe.
I was reading a couple other reviews out there. One reviewer was stating that like one of the possible pitfalls of this system is he actually had this upper dial resting almost squarely on top of the ball of his ankle, and that
Mm,
created like a fair bit of sort of chafing and just like discomfort as he was tightening the dial down.
yeah,
That
that
was
would
not
be
the
an
case for me. That was
okay.
not. I can see how that would hurt, but that was not the case for me.
Okay. So and then you've got the stretchy ankle gaiter.
We've got it. Yeah, we've got the ankle gaiter here. You know, we've obviously tested comparable models. The Hoka Tecton X3, for example, comes to mind. La Sportiva Prodigio Pro to some extent. Uh, Really comfortable material. The one thing I will say is for me, it was not airtight. This material was a little bit flimsy. There was some creasing. I had some gaps. And so
Mm.
I actually was getting like some debris inside the foot with this particular setup. So
Okay, so your ankles were not thick enough
I might have more
for this.
narrow, yeah, smaller
Okay.
ankles. And yeah, exactly.
So breaking down the midsole, it is the classic and kind of unique to Speedland drop-in midsole with a carrier. So we've got our beaded HTPU external midsole, and then it's a blended like supercritical foam uh, internal midsole that's removable, and it's actually very similar stack, this internal part, to the GS Tam. I actually took this one out and put it in the GS Tam to see how that felt, and it like fit in there just fine. So
Oh,
I thought that was interesting. It does have the option to lock in the Carbitex plate underneath, which is, the Carbitex plate is nifty because it bends in one direction and is
yep.
stiff in the other. So this shoe also is compatible with that. We'll talk into the pros and cons of that plate in a little bit. The outsole is our Michelin Fiberlight outsole rubber. It's the same material that they've been using for the last few years, and it's a very soft, tacky outsole rubber. And this one comes with big old fat chonky lugs. They're 6.5 millimeters on both of our shoes, and these are advertised as the cuttable lugs. You can almost, you can see that there's like two distinct tiers of lugs where you can basically chop the top 3.5 millimeters off if you want that lower to the ground feel. I did not do that this time around, although I do have an original SLPDX, and I did chop the lugs off on this one.
Okay.
I actually only chopped the 4-foot lugs off because for how minimal the shoe felt, the 4 millimeter drop bugged me. So I made a 7 mil drop shoe
My God.
by just chopping the front lugs off. I don't know. I think it worked. I'm not sure. It felt fine. This PDX feels better though. So I didn't cut my
That's
legs this time
innovation.
around. And I don't plan on it. I'm just gonna keep them as is. Oh yeah, it's your shoe, the SVT, I think is short for Silverton, because it's like Avery Collins' signature model,
Yes.
built for the rugged San Juan Mountains. And then PDX was like an ode to Portland and Forest Park, where Speedland is HQ'd. And this one, I mean, this outsole is supposed to work on pretty sloppy terrain, and it's 6.5 millimeter lugs are definitely going to dig into some mud. Moving on to testing mileage. What did you get for yours?
Yeah, I ended up getting 56 miles in the shoe. I lost the last 3.5 days almost to no running just due to being sick. I was hoping to get 85 to 90 in the shoe, but 56. Climbed about 12,000 feet, got one workout in it, and also put a long-ish run in about 12 miles, 2 hours time on feet. Um, as you can see here in sort of the transitory spring mud season in the Salt Lake foothills.
Yeah, I am glad that you got to take them on a proper mud run to test out the lug depth of those shoes. So we'll chat about that. I got in 67 miles, mileage low, but like vert and time on feet pretty high. So like 15 and a half hours and 15,500 feet of vert. Probably 70% running, 30% child hiking. So like just carrying around an extra 20 pounds. Oh, I mean, every single one of those I start going straight up from my house. So like my heart rate spikes in those, and I get into the dirt. So, and then I have to descend 500 feet with 20 pounds on me. Yeah, actually really great like lockdown testing, because if you've got that extra weight and you're just walking straight down like a 20% gradient, like you're really testing the lockdown of a shoe. So I've actually liked the hiking part element of the testing in these shoes. I also did a mixture, mostly dry trail and dirt road for these, which I get not really the advertised terrain, but you get what you get, which is we'll talk about like where these shoes work best in a little bit. I did get a couple mud runs in, and I did also do a few harder hill workouts in this shoe. So I took it through a pretty good range of efforts and paces as well. So as we mentioned earlier, we both went a half size down, as was similar with the GS TAM. I don't regret that decision. I fully support the half size down for these, for at least for mine. What about you?
Likewise.
Yeah, so 9.5, it felt like 10. I will say that I actually liked the fit of this one better than the GS TAM. And, I think that's for two reasons. One, this shoe is a little bit narrower and lower volume just all the way around. The GS TAM, higher volume rounder shoe. I wouldn't call this a narrow shoe though. I thought it fit kind of squarely right into the medium category. But one thing I noticed is I got like little tips of toe blisters in the GS TAM. And that was because when you take out the GS TAM's insole versus the new PDX, they've actually changed the dimensions of it quite a bit. The biggest one being the forefoot. The GS TAMs, I'll get a better video. The GS TAM has an entire lip that goes up in the front of the toes of foam on the forefoot. They got rid of it for the PDX, and I thought it was significantly more comfortable the way, and it doesn't wrap all the way around the sides of the toes either, which helped with just the comfort of the flex point of the shoe as well. The other part that I noticed, and this is a very small detail, but I think made pretty major differences, is so on the connection point for the Carbitex plate, there's actually like a little hole that's cut out, right under your heel. And then they insert a little plug that has this foam, like little locking mechanism.
Yeah.
On the GS TAM versus the PDX, to me, the material feels different. Like this almost just on the GS TAM feels like a standard ass kind of EVA. I mean, it looks different, like the sheen on the foams, it looks different. Whereas the one on the PDX looks like it's the same material. And it gave me a much smoother and softer, like heel cushion sensation. Like this might be a Princess in the Pea type scenario where like I might be the only person to notice this, but I think the insert in the PDX is significantly better than the one on the GS Tam.
Did you ask Dave or Kevin about it?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't think of it. Well, I didn't really notice it until I looked at him like 20 minutes before this review. So that's why I thought the shoe just fit me a little bit better. I also I really like the Velcro strap.
Hmm. Why is that surprising?
I just wasn't sure if I was going to be able to like crank it down as well as, the twisting of the boa dial. You get such good like just leverage, however it is that the mechanism works, where like you can easily make the shoe way too tight with the boa dial. Um, and I actually found that I was able to do the same thing with the Velcro strap, but I was also able to be just as precise as I needed to for this top strap. And then it had me thinking, I'm like, man, what if we went like full toddler and just gave me dual Velcro straps on here and
Dude, then
dropped
you'd
the
be
other
getting
bow
straight
down?
Tiva. That's Tiva.
Yeah, but like with closed toed 6 millimeter lugs, like I don't know. I do really like this bottom boa dial. So I actually think that like moving forward for any of the low top shoes and like shoot, maybe even the SVT, I don't know. I think single boa dial and Velcro strap, great way to not lose performance and save money.
I was gonna say because we've had that Merrill single dial shoe come through, and I don't know, that didn't work from is this the first viable single boa dial shoe on the market?
It's single boa dial because it's single boa dial, but it's still dual point lockdown.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it works. So I had no lockdown issues with this shoe. There was a couple runs where I made it entirely too tight and had to actually loosen it and was like, wow, it worked. Didn't stretch out at all. And like I have cycling shoes that I've worn for years with Velcro straps on it, and they're still fine. A lot of people are like, oh, the Velcro is going to wear. It's like, you're not going to wear this shoe that many times where you're wearing out the Velcro. Like, that's just not happening.
Is
So, I thought I think this upper is great. I think this is my favorite variant of a Speedland upper.
wow. Is the Velcro a weight savings over a bow dial?
That's a great question. If I had to take a guess, I bet it's a wash
Okay.
because like you still have to add like a second layer of fabric and like instead of the boa dial, but there's also like a plastic loop and the fabric across it's pretty thick. So I bet weight wise it's the same. But it's cheaper. Like it's hands down cheaper than an Li2 dial. Like
So
shoe components don't get much more expensive than a BOA Li2 dial.
where does all the weight come from in this shoe?
I think it's just outsole and dense midsole foams.
Yeah.
Like this is a pretty beefy outsole and it's a pretty dense midsole foam as well. So I think that's where a lot of the weight is coming from because I don't think this upper's that heavy. This upper
No,
feels pretty good.
it's actually in some ways it's kind of a minimalist upper. Like I was thinking, like
Yeah,
look at like in my shoe, for example, it's a pretty for a shoe that's marketed towards fairly technical terrain. This is a pretty thin toe bumper.
yeah,
Um,
it's not protecting you from anything.
no, and I have no issue with that. But like it's just amazing how they've made a lot of what I would say are weight savings decisions on the upper. And I was just
So
cool.
what did you think of your upper in terms of the fit?
Yeah, I thought the fit was great. I think I've talked about this before when we had the Jackal 2 Boa in from La Sportiva. Like I love these Li2 dials. I love being able to like kind of adjust the fit if I'm going uphill or downhill. Um, yeah, I can kind of just tune it to just like my foot shape. I think that's great. Um, the fit was great. Like I actually think that the repositioning of these dials and bringing this one up higher and separated from the sidewall there, like I definitely have like a better lockdown than I tested both this and the GS10 before hopping on live. Um, yeah, I think that this fit is great. I think my only concerns was just this ankle gaiter maybe not conforming as well to my ankle as I thought it would.
Hmm.
Um, and for some people, this is less for me and more for others. Just like this upper is not as protective as I would assume a shoe built for like mountainous technical training would be.
Yeah. Okay. Totally. You didn't get any like friction or chafing problems with
No,
the material of the ankle
no,
gaiter. It's soft enough.
no, soft. Yeah.
Right on. I guess moving to like the midsole and the underfoot feel. Did you run at all with it with the carbon plates in them?
I didn't.
You've never really been a carbon plate in their Speedland shoe kind of guy, huh?
No, I haven't. I mean, I feel like if I did use it in this shoe, maybe it's a little bit more rock protection.
Yeah, it's an interesting use case for like the SVT and like big mountain stuff. It's like I don't know why I would use that carbon plate aside from it just being a rock
Stability and
plate.
rock protection.
Yeah, but I feel like the midsole on its own is pretty good at
Yeah.
taking absorbing rock hits. So for myself in the previous, GS TAM and the original um, SL PDX, I've been pro carbon plate in both of them. Like I liked the shoe significantly more in the carbon
Mm.
plate. So I started out running in the carbon plate in this one. And I ran into this issue, which I thought was an upper problem. And I don't know, people in the comments might have to dissect this one for me because I still don't really know how this works. But anytime I would climb like steep enough to the point where my heel would not touch the ground, and I had the carbon plate in my shoe, my left foot would go numb unless I like basically undid the whole upper. Like something about the pressure points of climbing with the extra stiffness in the shoe was pushing down on something, making my foot go numb.
Yeah.
I noticed it especially on a workout that I did where I was doing like hard threshold intervals that like they were like 10 or 12 minutes long. And by the top, I could like barely feel the ground because my foot was like fully gone. I took the plate out because I wanted to just do a test. And ever since I took the plate out, I never put it back in because my feet problems disappeared. No more foot numbness. And I actually ended up liking the additional flexibility and ground feel for this stack height shoe with
Mm.
no plate way more than having the plate. So for the PDX, I'm actually totally content without the plate, and I in fact like it more. And I thought it was still had plenty enough protection.
Wow.
Yeah, it's super weird.
Did you have any of that feeling in any of the other carbon plated shoes that we've tested?
No, it was just this one. And like it has to do so it's got to be something with the upper and the way that my foot is working like against the carbon plate when I'm climbing steep stuff where it's like too stiff and I'm like I'm like, I'm like flexing out, like people like on
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
on Instagram who are like trying to squat like way too much weight and they forget to breathe and they pass out. Like that's what my foot is doing, I think, in these shoes. But then when I took the carbon plate out, it was awesome. And I got to feel the cushioning of the shoe because there was no plate splitting the drop in midsole and the external cage, which is like pretty highly cushioned. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And I also found that I actually really like running in this shoe on harder packed terrain. I thought for some reason, maybe the foam durometer is softer, but this felt softer to me than the GS TAM did.
Huh. I did not have that. I felt the GSTM was softer.
Yeah, I don't know. I just never meshed that well with the GS TAM. Like I never loved it. But I actually really liked. So like I was just like putzing around, easy on the ditch. Last few days in this shoe, and I'm like running on basically a hard packed dirt fire road, like not where this shoe's supposed to be run at all. I liked it. It kind of reminded me of, your kind of mid cush lower stack shoe. You know what it actually reminded me of a lot? And I'm jumping the gun a little bit. I'll tease one competitor shoe.
Yeah, yeah.
Ultra Mont Blanc Carbon.
Interesting because that carbon plate, it was one of the more flexible plates that we tested, right?
Yeah, so once I took the plate out of this, it felt like very similar to me and like cushion wise felt similar, but this is like going to be way more durable of a shoe. And I liked the upper lockdown better. That's what it reminded me because I really liked the Mont Blanc Carbon like foam feel and everything. But
I
there was
love the
just
Ego foam.
there's just a few other things about the shoe that I didn't love. Like I didn't love the zero drop. I like having 5 mil drop, and this has like super fat lugs too, which are just going to allow me to get more miles out of the shoe from a durability standpoint. I wouldn't limit this shoe to just as a soft ground shoe. I think the shoe can work just fine, like during the summer months on hard packed dirt. Because I actually thought it was very smooth and it breathes just fine.
For a lower, like, can we talk about the weight for a second?
Yeah,
Like for a lower stack shoe, one of my takeaways was this has like the weight class of like a max cushion shoe. Like compared to like I have like the Hoka Mafate Speed X, in house right now. I'm running in that, like, comparable weight. These are two kind of beefy shoes, but this is lower stack.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like it's got to be the denser foam and the thickness of this outsole. I mean, we're rocking a lot of outsole rubber.
Yeah.
Like that Mafate X has less lugs and they're 3.5 millimeters. So we're talking like 3 more millimeters of rubber. Like we're almost doubling the volume of rubber that's under this shoe.
How much weight are we going to lose just by wearing out the lugs?
Dude, I bet if you shaved all these lugs completely flat, I bet you knock at least a full ounce off this shoe.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe, yeah, maybe life just gets better.
Perhaps, yeah. I definitely did feel the weight of the shoe. Mine's also a little bit lighter than yours. I think those 10 grams do go a long way. But yeah, like you said, like I guess technically it will get lighter as you run more in it, but that's also the case with all shoes, I guess. Um, none of the shoes get heavier unless it's the Tecton X3 in water, apparently. Um, so what do you think these shoes are best for from a terrain standpoint? I'll let you start with your SVT.
I mean, I'm hoping that they're best like on the hard rock course.
That's what
You
you
know,
think. What do you
I'm,
think?
I'm I think I agree. I think, for example, there's a route that we have here in the Wasatch. It's called the Millwood 100, which basically uses all of the coolest mountain terrain that has been crossed off the list by the U.S. Forest Service for events like the Bear or Wasatch or Speed Goat. Like it's the coolest terrain that you can go through if you were unobstructed by permitting. And there's just a really cool variation of steep, scree-filled climbs and descents, single track that's pretty buffed out, some Forest Service roads, a whole mix of like the mountain portfolio, and like you said, like soft ground, firmer surfaces, harder pack surfaces, mountain scree. I think this shoe can handle all of that as
Mm,
long as it's proportioned. So I would take it out on a thing like the Millwood 100 or the Hard Rock 100. I think like it does match what it was built for.
mm.
um, these high altitude Mountain West terrain, longer runs. Uh, yeah, largely too because of durability. I think that this is one of the more durable shoes when the dust settles that we will have tested at CP.
I agree. I think this shoe is extremely well built, and it would be pretty hard to break any of the elements of this shoe before it wears out.
I think if anything goes first, it's the upper
Yeah, probably.
on
I,
mine.
I've got, I've got 15 hours on feet, and there's like no indentations in my foot or anything, no midsole foam creasing. Like the foam's brand new. Yeah, I think where this shoe definitely shines, this PDX, is like on your sloppy, muddy terrain, but I wouldn't limit it to it. Like I did run in the mud and like these lugs do awesome there. But I also ran on just like steeper dirt roads that were dry. And this shoe is nicely cushioned, like medium cushion, medium firmness. Got a little bit of pop to it. Like I think it worked great. It's just kind of a mileage shoe. I think it can be one of your, not quite a one shoe quiver, because I would say it felt a little sluggish on like faster workouts just due to the weight.
Yeah.
But it actually handles like all the things pretty well. The biggest, like, if we move on to durability, like you're saying, like it's going to be a pretty durable shoe. The one like little nitpick that I have is still just with how soft this Michelin rubber is. Like I've got 60, what did I say, 66 or 67 miles on this shoe, and like there's pretty visible wear on the
Mm,
forefoot lugs. Like they all started with these like little like grill marks in the
yeah.
middle, and like my middle of the forefoot, like those marks are actually all gone. So I've probably shaved away like 1 to 2 millimeters of outsole rubber
Oh,
already.
interesting.
I will say though that as you shave the lugs down, they gain quite a bit of surface area. So it'll like be exponentially harder to shave the lugs down as you get deeper and deeper, kind of like a pyramid.
Yeah.
So while I'm going through the rubber pretty fast, I still believe there's probably like even on dry packed stuff, which kind of seems to like sandpaper the lugs pretty quickly. I feel like even this shoe probably still has like anywhere between like 400 to 600 miles worth of outsole rubber.
Yeah.
And if I was just saving it for like muddy, sloppier terrain and that doesn't wear down the lugs as fast, like then it's a non-issue. But one of the problems that comes with that is like I'll wear down the middle lugs way faster than some of the outer ones, and that will create slight imbalances in the shoe. So I'll be curious in the long term, like how that goes. But midsole foam, solid. Upper, solid. Our shoes are $50 different. So like mine's $250 and yours are $300. Do you think the ankle gaiter and second BOA dial are worth the additional $50 investment?
I don't think they're worth the additional $50 investment, but I will say, and actually my mind has kind of changed listening to you through this review. I want to give validation to this price point, at least the 250 one, because I do think it's worth the price of durability. Like if you think about these shoes on a dollars per miles run basis, I actually do think I think this shoe is going to last you 600 to 700 miles.
Yeah, I was thinking 500, which puts me right at that 50 cents a mile benchmark, which we have no benchmarks for like what should the value of the shoe be, but I don't know, 50 cents a mile used to be terrible, but like now that seems pretty good. Also, as I've said before with Speedland and even like Norda and some of these other smaller companies, like you're spending more money, but you're getting like it's like a small batch, super premium product, and you're supporting a small company, like a very small niche company. Like these guys have like one warehouse in Portland, and I think they're selling 3 different models right now. And I think it's cool. I think there's value in that, and just being like, I supported the little guy.
It's also one of the, at least I think both of our shoes are, I mean, it's a very, how do I put this? I'm going to keep these. It has a look, because I always, with every single shoe that we get in store to test, I always spend a few days just walking around town, going to the supermarket, going to the bank, etc. Speedlands always get a look. People
who goes to the bank? When you go to the bank? I cannot remember the last time I set foot in a bank was when I had to like sign the business license documents for Conversational Pace LLC.
You're
like, I gotta go get money.
We're so old. We do like cash stuffing and stuff. We're so old fashioned, dude.
Oh yeah, I forgot you have your food, your lunch budget from Whole Foods in your envelope.
But anyways, people just walk up to you out of nowhere and they're like, "What is that?" So
okay, so there's a value prop right there. Did you have any competitor shoes listed for the SVT? It's kind of
I was just thinking more along the lines of just brands that are catering to that technical mountain running space. So VJ, Normal, La Sportiva. I think those are the first 3 that come to mind. Just like competitor brands in general that are trying to make like a lower stack, technical, precision fit, agile mountain running shoe.
For sure. Yeah. I actually have a hunch that a pretty direct competitor to this shoe is going to be like the Normal Tomir.
Yeah.
Because it's like because like I would also hike.
Really
I would hike
comparison.
I would hike all day in this shoe. It's got fat outsole lugs. I like this. I almost like the feel of this foam a little bit better, even though it's heavier. But super comfortable and like pretty good at most things, except in my case, I was actually able to get the upper to cooperate with my foot, unlike the Tomir, which did not work. Tomir is cheaper, but if you can't run in it, it's a terrible value shoe. Yeah. And I'm actually able to run in this, and I enjoy running in it quite a bit. For $250, I think it's fair. I think it's fair value for $250.
I agree.
If like a big brand, if like Nike or Adidas was selling this shoe for $250, I'd tell them to go F off. But like small brand, knowing how expensive it is to produce in small quantities, like $250, they've got cool ideas. They're running with it. Like, I think that's cool. And I think that's worth a few extra bucks. So if you do want to try out the Speedland GL, PDX, or SVT, I'll have links below to Speedland's direct sites. You can go check them out. I feel like there's a Free Trail discount floating around somewhere, so go listen to the Free Trail podcast.
It's Free Trail 10 for 10% off.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So check that out and save a few bucks there. What do we got up next? We're doing the VJ Ultra 3 next, as per request from the Conversational Pace Patreon. This is a plug for the Patreon. Go join that if you would prefer to just listen to us talk about shoes instead of watch it. Anything else, Finn?
I just want to apologize to the audience. I am sick as a dog today. I promise I'll be better next time.
I know by the time this comes out, the race will have already happened, but good luck in your 50 mile tomorrow.